Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Drop. This is the third and final part of our series on cycling logistics. And this episode is going to focus on community. Community is such a valuable thing in cycling, and it's been an amazing experience in my own life connecting with community and finding that aspect of this shared activity. You can learn a lot from things like YouTube or blog posts or cycling forums, but there's a limit to that knowledge. And to tap into an IRL community and meet people in your area that ride the way that you want to, just have a vibe and an energy that you like. It's a wonderful way to not only find that positive energy, which is something that can really help to keep you connected with the sport, but it's also a great way to get knowledge, vetted, tested knowledge that people have used to be successful in their own riding. My own story involves, for years, me just riding on my own. I wasn't finding a community that really excited me. Some racers were nice enough to sort of get me into cycling and give me the basic knowledge that I needed to sort of pursue the activity, at least on a surface level. And with that knowledge, I knew that racing was not going to be my community. I knew that I was looking for just something else, but I didn't know what that was. So for years, I just sort of rode on my own and used it as an excuse to stay fit and build fitness, all wonderful things to do. And then I started taking on bigger rides, and it was the first time I ever did the Circle of Doom, and it was an organized group ride. I think at the time it was being put on by, I want to say maybe Bahati Racing and Monster Energy or something like that was doing. Every year they would do an organized Circle of Doom. I wanted to try it. I had ridden that far before, about 90 miles, but I had never even dreamed of doing that much climbing. So I really didn't know what I was in for. And as I got to the top of Crystal Lake, and I've been climbing for over 20 miles continuously, I am wrecked. This was kind of the last ride that I look back on where I really truly bonked during the ride. So I'm at Crystal Lake and I am a mess. And a couple people just kind of maybe noticed me and noticed how rough of shape I was in. And they just invited me to come and spend some time with them. And they were part of a group called the Night Riders. They were so nice and so cool and so generous. They were giving me food, offering me electrolyte mix, really kind of doing everything that they could to turn this experience around for me. So already I feel like I've found some very special people. And then we all jumped back on our bikes, and I got to see how fast and how strong these people were. And that mixture of being just incredibly cool and kind, but also being very fast and very fit, I had never really seen that before. And it was the first time that I remember getting really excited about being a part of a community. And so those were people that I would seek out and try to learn from, just try to spend time with. Just the feel of their energy and the vibe of their group made me feel more connected to cycling. And from there, really kind of gave me the foundation and the confidence to start building and nurturing my own community. I always wanted to do big rides, 200 plus mile rides and things like that. And they really gave me the foundation to start seeking out those people, finding people where the energy was right. They had similar pursuits as me. They also kind of gave me the confidence to, once I leveled up my own cycling enough, I really started to find that for me, being a resource for other people and being sort of a teacher for other people was something that I found incredibly fulfilling. And that led me to, at various times, I would be leading training rides for people, kind of teaching people how to get faster, how to be stronger, how to be safer. That was kind of the first time that, I found that community. And then through that, sort of trying to grow and educate my own community became a big priority. And that's something that I still find incredibly, incredibly fulfilling. And it continues to keep me connected to the sport. All of our experiences are unique. Finding out how significant it is for people to connect with community seems like a very universal thing. And I tapped some people in my own community and just talked to them a little bit about what was the first group that they connected with that really advanced their cycling forward and really made them feel like they were part of something maybe bigger or deeper. And hearing these stories from people who, some of them I've known for years, was really interesting to me. And it made me feel like I got to know about a very important part of their life.
So I grew up in a small town called Nevada City in the Sierra Nevada foothills, and we had a really big mountain biking culture. And so I was doing cross-country mountain biking from a pretty young age, but really took a pretty long break from that until I moved to Los Angeles in March of 2020. And pretty quickly found some friends, including Panda with ponies, that allowed me to meet a very large group of cyclists that really looked out for each other. And it's really modeled the way that I look at like what I'm looking for a group in a community, not just like a cycling community, but just like friends in general. Mm-hmm. And like, I was for 10 years or so part of like a music scene and really found that to be my community. Okay. Sometimes it would take a pretty long time to like really get to know people, let them open up. But I felt like, especially with cycling, it like be like, oh, this is my crew. These are the people that I trust when we go out like on a big ride. I trust that you're going to lead me in the right place, that if I'm having a hard time, you're going to lift me up, and vice versa.
For sure. Really looking out for each other in like a very genuine way, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of these skills you just kind of learn by mimicking what others do. Mm-hmm. and like just being communicative on the road and letting people know like about their surroundings a lot more when you're riding by yourself. Yeah. Even like now when I ride on, say, the LA River bike path and I know there's a cyclist behind me, I'll like be more communicative and let them know about little obstructions or things that are happening. And so I think like it's allowed me to like just be a lot more like safety oriented, but also open to meeting new people, because like if I just am standing on the side of the road and another cyclist comes up, I feel a lot more comfortable just like having a conversation, seeing where they're going. And like, so there's like kind of the social element of it, but also with the climbing element, and so much of our rides involve long climbs. I've learned a lot about like not burning all my matches out too quickly, and like how to like do a good pull and make sure that everyone feels like comfortable on a ride and stuff. So it's definitely also bridged into like my personal, professional, romantic life too, in weird ways.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
I should briefly introduce Panda. Panda is a name that you're going to hear from a couple of the people that I talk to. Panda is a very important figure, especially in the east side Los Angeles, but also the greater Los Angeles, Orange County area. He really was a believer in community. He was an exceptional cyclist. He was an expert mechanic. He thrived off of getting new people into cycling and taking them on huge adventures that they never thought that they would be able to take on. Unfortunately, Panda passed away in 2022 and has been a big loss for a lot of people in the community. But it's so cool to hear about how Panda has touched so many people's lives, and also was an inspiration for other people to take on this responsibility of building community.
It definitely started with ponies. Before that, it was a century ride that I did. I think I told you before. Met a guy named Dino, a couple other cats, and Dino was like, "You like to climb, you should join this group." So it was first ponies, which led me to Panda, and then was doing all those epic adventures every Saturday, just in the mountains. So I learned how to ride in a group, and learned how to fix my bike a little bit. Panda definitely spoiled me by changing my tires more than he should.
I bet.
Yeah, that's kind of where everything started. And then since then, I've tried to replicate that on my own and in a small way. So more recently, Kaleem and I have started to do once a month, just do like a Saturday social is what we call it. And it's just, we're very intentional in being like, okay, we're not chasing any segments. We're just here to talk, get to know one another, help out a new rider. And it's because, we get caught up in these fast rides, and it's not till way later on when you actually talk to somebody like, oh, this person does some really cool stuff. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to get to know people off the bike as well.
So you're kind of taking your community experiences and sort of paying it forward and starting to nurture your own community.
Yeah, trying to, for sure. I just try to do my part because I know what it was like being a new rider. It's
tough.
it's intimidating, or can be intimidating, but with groups like that Panda had, it just made it easy, man. And then you can just fit into any group ride as long as you find the right community first and learn the basics.
Where do you think your cycling would be had you not met that initial community?
I'm pretty obsessive, so I'm sure I would have been stuck into YouTube a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Probably just would have been more solo rides. And who knows, maybe I would have been turned off by a different group ride had I not met this one. Panda's group was my first group, so how fortunate is that, for sure,
Are there any like particular skills that you think that you wouldn't know had you not met that group? Mechanical, riding, etiquette.
Definitely etiquette. Definitely etiquette. Just the small things, pointing out rocks or glass. Just giving people making people aware of where you're going. I picked up on a lot of those things pretty quickly, and then, he and people within the group definitely delivered those messages in a very nice and consumable way.
I think when I was like in my 20s, when I was living in New York, I had a great group of friends and we rode our bicycles like in the evening to the bars and stuff. But I think I was looking for kind of like a different pace of life and trying to get away a little bit from like the nightlife of Brooklyn. And I started seeing women riding around the city in like cycling kit, and they were wearing like red and white spandex, and they had like cool road bikes.
Yes.
So I actually went on Craigslist and I bought a red Cannondale 613, and I bought a red and white helmet, and I started rolling up to who is now a great friend of mine, Brittany Bowman, and I would be like, hey, what's up? Like, what ride are you doing today? And eventually, she said, do you want to try out for our women's cycling team? And I said yes, and there was this incredible program where you can kind of pay in to be part of the CRCA, and they have mandatory skills clinics, and we had a sponsor, Endurance Works, that every Wednesday took us out at 4:30 in the morning in Central Park, and we practiced pacelining skills. We started doing like regional racing where we would travel together and do racing, and everyone would kind of be giving you pointers throughout the way. And I just thought like it was such an incredible experience to really like jumpstart riding at like a higher level than just like commuting, to be able to be like part of this like group of women and individuals that really just kind of like held your hand through like what your goals were and really like rooted for you and like kind of helped support you in that way.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I feel so lucky.
That's so great. And then when you came to LA from New York, what was the difference coming to LA?
What is really fun about Los Angeles is that there's not so much of a race scene here, and I think a lot of it is just because there's such a great riding infrastructure. I think I moved to LA, I was really surprised because I didn't actually know about the road cycling here, and now that I'm a part of like this great infrastructure of individuals kind of doing it, where we meet on these like weekday rides and we really build community here like before the workday, and then on the weekends we like make these like really great challenging rides where we all go out together. And I think there's like you get to see a lot of riders come in and maybe they've been riding by themselves for a while and they just happen to hear about the ride, or they're told about the ride through their friends, and then they get to progress and really learn from everybody on like the weekdays, and then they get to start like taking those skill sets and riding the bigger rides on the weekends with the friends that they've made on the weekday rides.
Sure.
And I think it's like a really cool infrastructure there to help new riders become like stronger riders, become more skilled riders without that race format. So it's just been a really cool scene to be a part of and kind of witness the growth of so many riders in such a short amount of time that I've been here.
Oh my gosh, everybody's just, I feel like there's a new crusher every week.
It's true.
Like somebody else, like their fitness is peaking, and then we just pass that baton.
Yeah.
Just, it's so incredible to be a part of that.
It's so fun to really kind of know where all your friends are at and where a lot of folks are at, and getting to really cheer for them in their own PRs and knowing what the goals that they've set for themselves are and get to see them achieve it. It's like really a cool thing to be part of out here.
So at this time of my life, I was coming out of high school into my freshman year in college, and I didn't have a way to stay in shape. I was just coming off of a pretty big injury from baseball, and not being able to go to do sports in college. So I was like a little bummed out, and then I ran into Sean Wolf, who owns like Sun and Air in King Cog in Brooklyn, and now has LA and here in LA, and he's literally the one that got me into cycling. And there's this group of kids back in the day, kids in Indianapolis, and they were like called the Rad Skids. And I mean, I don't know if they're called that, but it was just a group of kids that just rode track bikes, and they kind of just like accepted me into their little group, and like this, like it was basically an entire track bike community in Indianapolis. And from there, I started to learn all types of things, how to work on bikes, how to ride how to ride safely.
Yeah.
I'm like everything from those guys. So it was an amazing experience, and the fact that they were like, it just accepted me into their community so openly, and like, with me being all curious and like wide-eyed and stuff like that, was like something I would never forget, because it got me to I got to do a lot of cool stuff in cycling, and it's brought me all over the world and country. So
That's amazing.
yeah. So
Where do you think your cycling would be had you not met that group? Would you have even
I
gotten
wouldn't
into
know.
cycling?
Absolutely, literally not. Because that was like, it was weird. It was like a chance thing. So I got this Schwinn World, road bike off of, it's like a drop. It was like a down tube shifter road bike, old school, off of Craigslist.
Okay.
My dad picked it up with me, super like back in the day, and I was like, I'll just give it a try. I'm gonna commute to like school from where I live downtown. So, and I went to Indiana University, Purdue University. So it was like downtown Indianapolis. So I would just commute back and forth. And then I saw this kid just whipping in and out of traffic on this like blue Mazda Cotello, and it was Sean. And I was like, I got time. And I was like, this guy looks so fucking cool. Like, just like, I'm curious, like, where did you get that bike? And I was like, I literally like followed him. I was like, and I was struggling because he was like just dipping.
Yeah.
And I finally caught up to him at this place called Monument Circle. It's like the center of downtown Indianapolis. So where everyone hangs out, basically, on bikes. And he was like, literally, he's like, oh, what's up, man? He just started talking to me, hella nice. And that's basically where it started. So I think if I wouldn't have bumped into him, I probably wouldn't have got into cycling, I think.
Wow.
Because I was literally just trying it.
Amazing.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
Like, I was big into, like, basketball. I still am, but I probably wouldn't. I was just commute to college and back and forth. But that kind of changed the trajectory of, like, my career and everything, I think. So it's pretty wild.
It was, I was riding with the Velo Pasadena had that shop on Los Feliz Boulevard in Atwater.
Yeah.
And they had a Wednesday morning group ride that I was going to with Harach. And his son would kind of lead the ride. And they were just, Harach is a former champion of Armenia.
Oh, wow.
Which he would remind us all was while it was Soviet. We're like, oh, that sounds really tough. He was like, oh yeah, they would, if they wanted us to learn how to climb out of the saddle, they would literally take the seat off your bike and just leave the posts and be like, all right, now climb for an hour.
What?
So if you forgot, you were quickly reminded that you're supposed to be standing.
Yes.
So I still have it like in my head. He'd be, kind of behind me like, oh, Phil, you need to push a bigger gear, man. Stop with this dance like Lance bullshit. I was like, all right, man. So, but then they were closing that little shop. And there was it was just like a Wednesday morning group ride. It was like Hamish and a bunch of other kind of old dudes. And when those two rides kind of got together after Velo left, that kind of merger of those two group rides evolved into the ponies. So it was, Harach was there. Yoni started kind of leading. There's no leader, right? It's this amorphous, organic community ride.
Yeah.
But Yoni, and it's sort of obvious. It was too obvious not to start calling it Yoni's Ponies because that's where we would meet up. So, but yeah, it was that group and kind of everyone in it. It was just never a proper group ride of roadies who were all kind of mean and looking at each other's bikes. It was always super friendly. There was always a regroup at the top of every climb, no matter how long it took. And someone had a flat, there'd be like a pit crew would form around them to get them going again, and that's just how it stayed. It wasn't how to ride in a group as if we're like a racing peloton. It was just how to create a group and build the group, and there was more things like that were always more important than like learning how to change a tire, or what to do when you can't.
That's so cool.
So, that stuff those are YouTube finds, but the culture of cycling you pick up like with the group, Ask the Colombians. How do you, can you go down the list of espresso, macchiato, cappuccino. You got to know all these. What the hell's a flat white? You got to ask some Danish dude. Like, you got to learn the different coffees.
Absolutely.
It's as important as anything else. So, yeah, got to learn your coffee.
Do you, where do you think your cycling would be had you not met that group?
It certainly would be more. It would be more boring. It'd be more workmanlike. Just having a community in Los Angeles, which is not known for having communities. People move here and they're like, you don't know anyone. Or someone you meet has a different, area code on their phone. You're never going to see them again. But this is just you always have a group of friends once a week, and then you can make plans from there. What are you doing on Saturday? It's a blue moon. What are we going to do? Well, once in a blue moon, we're going to come back at 9:30 and do this again at night.
Yeah.
No lights on. So, yeah, you can tell when someone finds the group for the first time. They're like, I'm home. I found it. And people have been living here for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
You just see them. Hey, man, you should come to the ponies, and they do. And then you'll never not see them after that. They're there.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it went from a group so small on we used to go to Blue Bottle after the ride and sit inside.
Yep.
And
Tiny coffee shop.
Now we're smothering the south end of Griffith Park. So
that's amazing.
It's a good thing.
That's awesome.
That's what you learn. It's how to create a community that means you have a group to ride with.
Yeah.
That's the magic. So.
This is kind of a long drawn out story, but I got into cycling, during the lockdown, and Instagram really helped me, and I ended up going to Golden Saddle a lot and bugging people there and asking for tips, and somehow I got alerted to Ride for Black Lives, and that was my first group ride, and I met actually a lot of people through there, Brian Hashimoto and Tony Rodriguez, who's at Trash Panda Cycling, and then I ended up going with Trash Panda people and biking with them kind of often. And then I got introduced to other, worlds, but having that more chill group that was pretty supportive. And at the time I had my Gorilla Monsoon and were really chill about me bringing that to a group ride was really nice. I think it was a vibe of just non-judgment because I was so new to riding. By new, this was my very first bike I've ever owned in my adult life.
Yeah.
I taught myself how to ride a bike when I was in my late 20s. And so I still was learning how to get on and off a bike and, later on pedals and stuff.
Yeah.
And people didn't judge me when I would fall down or in a parking lot, with the pedals. So I think having that environment was really helpful because it just kind of pushed me. But at the same time, being around people who were stronger than me also pushed me to become a better cyclist versus kind of being around just with Ride for Black Lives, which is a very, very leisurely pace and laid back group. And so there was something in me that I guess wanted more out of me in terms of finding something that was also challenging.
That's great, because it can be so intimidating, especially coming from, like you said, very beginner cycling to trying to get into bigger things and challenge yourself physically and stuff like that. Sometimes it can be really intimidating around some groups to bring that energy and sort of have that level of acceptance amongst new riders, right?
100%. And I think ponies was like that too. In the beginning, I felt very intimidated, and until I started getting to know people and just going and just thinking it, just on my own pace or enjoying it. And I think that's the thing is I feel a lot of people can be intimidated, but it's just about kind of going and doing something and just seeing the vibe. But it would be nice to see something like Ride for Black Lives come back, where it had a very strong purpose and it was very inclusive and chill pace and things like that. So, because I really met a lot of people through that ride,
yeah,
and it was a really nice vibe as well.
If you hadn't met some of these groups, where do you think your cycling would be today?
When I first started riding, I just didn't think I could be one of those people riding up Griffith.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would I could have probably still continued Griffith, but I don't know if I would have been doing something like the tourist race if I had not met people, which is something that like sounds terrifying,
it's
in
such a leap
hindsight.
forward in skills and ability to do a tourist race.
Yeah, and like I felt very good doing it, and at the end I felt great, but I think like if I hadn't met people, I probably would have just done things like very close to home, and just only with like a friend, and maybe maybe the river path, maybe just hang out with my friend in Pasadena. And I think like having those people around helped push me, because I could ride with them and see their level, and then I could see myself doing that as well if I just worked just as hard.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was able to practice skills being in those group rides and being on the streets, and like finding new routes, which would be hard to find on my own as well. Those things really, really help, and I learned all those from like other people.
I feel so honored that I got to hear all of those stories and all of those experiences. One thing that did surprise me is just how important this concept of vibe and energy is within the community. Part of me expected to hear from people, oh, when I got to know this group, they taught me XYZ, how to eat, how to do mechanicals and stuff like that. That seems to be a very small part of the story of community. The cool thing about that is that we can all contribute to that vibe. And that's new riders and very experienced riders. People who are looking for a community and people who already have a community. Just this vibe that we're all looking for, we can all be a part of it, no matter where we're at in our cycling experience. And that's one of the most exciting things about cycling, is it's a journey, and we meet new people, we acquire new skills, we move in and out of, being impassioned about our riding. It's really an amazing story, and it seems like there's real depth to these experiences, and it can be life-changing in a way. And that is really the essence of community, and why I wanted to focus on it as the final part in our series about logistics. It's so cool to learn new things about how to ride your bike. It's very important to learn, about things like safety and communication and how to take care of your own mechanicals on the road. These are all really important skills and can absolutely be learned through community. But having something that anchors you to the activity might be the most valuable part of community. So if you're a new rider, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone. Even if you're not new, if you're still just looking for that community, like I was. I rode for years without finding a community. If you're an experienced rider and if you've already found your community, just try to be open and keep an eye out for new riders. Be welcoming. Don't make judgments based on kit or sock length or the bike that they're on. These material things are trivial. they do not matter. So let's just be accepting, always look to positively impact the community and help contribute to this vibe that it just seems to be so important. And it's on all of us to keep that vibe going.